when you went to the to the steam power, the guys that used to be able to build buggies and wagons and work on things before steam, you needed a new set of skills to be able to work on and maintain the equipment. So the electricians that powered the second industrial revolution, those guys may not necessarily know how to fix, the internet or a desktop computer or your networking at your company today. So now the same thing would apply as we enter the fourth industrial revolution. Well, hello and welcome to the SkillWork Forum. Again, I'm Tim, joined with my partner Brett here from SkillWork. And we gather here every week when we have these episodes to talk about things relating to the skilled trades, industries that may be impacted by the skilled trades and trends, and everything really associated with that. So last time when we talked, we looked at kind of some of the things that we projected or some trends that we thought would be an impact to your organization here in 2021 as we're getting underway. And one of the things we briefly mentioned was this thing called the fourth industrial revolution. And today we thought we would dig into that a little bit more and really talk about what is it, and more specifically, what does it mean to you and your organization? Why does it matter, and why does it matter to you? So before we kind of delve into that, I think it's always good to get context. So when we talk about revolution in the context of the fourth industrial revolution, we're really talking about a paradigm shift, a real big and significant fundamental, if you will, change to the way we do things in the industrial sphere. And so if we're in the fourth industrial revolution, it must mean there were three others before that.
You would hope. And
yeah.
So just kind of give context to that. Obviously, most of us, I think I can say 100% of us didn't live through all the revolution or these revolutions. The first industrial revolution, is projected that it started around, the mid 1700s, and so basically that would have been the beginning of the steam engine, water power, so powered energy. So it began to change, where you were going from literally horse and buggy, to these different type of things. The second, which was really when mass production begun to start, and it really was fueled off of the use of electricity, so large engines and motors. If you think of Henry Ford and the assembly line, that would have happened in the second industrial revolution. And then the third industrial revolution was the beginning of digital technology, so the utilization of computers and the internet, which would be, right now, most experts would say that we are somewhere either in the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution, or we're kind of in it, it's kind of started, but definitely deep into the third industrial revolution.
Or starting the fourth. So we've been doing a little bit of research on this, and we think it's important to talk about in the context of skilled trade, because if you look at each one of these revolutions, not only did it change the way things were done, but it really changed the way you had to go about making it all work. So when you went to the steam power or powered energy, the guys that used to be able to build buggies and wagons and work on things before steam, you needed a new set of skills to be able to work on and maintain the equipment, like a steam paddle boat. The guy that could work on a wagon may not necessarily be able to repair the steam-powered power plant on that paddle boat. Well, same thing in the electrical mass production era. You needed guys that could work on those machines. So new skills, new technology was required. Even though it advanced things, it also required companies to look at the way, how do we keep this equipment running? How do we maintain it? How do we build it? So forth. And same thing with digital. So the electricians that powered the second industrial revolution, those guys may not necessarily know how to fix, the internet or a desktop computer or your networking at your company today. So now the same thing would apply as we enter the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah. So, to kind of give a little bit more detail, and I guess I do want to put a disclaimer for Tim and I. Our goal in this podcast and where we feel that we add value to the conversation is really at Skillwork. We're a skilled trade company. We provide skilled trade labor into the industry with a unique model, and so what we're really, the piece that we want to talk about is what are you doing to prepare for this fourth industrial revolution. We're not going to pretend to be experts in what that is, the understanding of AI and cloud technology and those type of things. But what we do know is that what it's going to require from a talent base to be able to excel in this era is an area that we're heavily focused on and studying and understanding, and would a partner to help companies get there. So let's talk, though, for a minute. Let's at least set the groundwork of what the fourth industrial revolution, the difference between, say, computers and internet and now this next level of technology. So basically now what we're looking at in this is what they call kind of a digital ecosystem. So because of cloud technology and a thing called the Internet of Things, basically you now have the technology to, in essence, connect all of these things. So you have real-time learning, you have real-time information that through a variety of sensors and again, everything. If you think about it, you put it, if you think about companies like Uber and Lyft, it's always a great example to say, if while that's a brilliant idea that's now worth billions of dollars, if you would have launched that concept 25 years ago, clearly it would have failed. The technology wasn't there to allow it to happen. And so same thing in this fourth industrial revolution, the technology to support these ideas, and we'll get into why would you do it? What's the drive behind it? To want to be able to do this here in a minute.
We know enough about the technology aspect to be dangerous, but we certainly can see the implication. And just to put it in something that we might understand, a lot of people have what they call smart homes, where everything's run off their smartphone. I can turn on the thermostat. I can set my alarm. Your vehicle that you're in, everything in your vehicle now is interconnected. It's constantly learning. It's understanding, you as a driver, how to service you as a vehicle that actually has this ability to have artificial intelligence, and it's pulling information from all these sensors and connecting it actually back to, in their case, the mothership, which would be the dealership or the manufacturer, so they know what's going on with your vehicle. So it's kind of that idea. In the context of what we're going to talk about today, honing in on manufacturing, which is a big part of what we focus on, providing skilled trades to the manufacturing sector. So in manufacturing, it's this fusion of the traditional physical manufacturing and assembly line where you're actually making real product, the fusion between that and digital manufacturing. So the companies that are understanding how to leverage this and make this work will be at the forefront of this fourth industrial revolution. What about the factory floor, Brett? You come from that background. So what is your?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting time. I think specific to the area that we participate in and we try to really study and pay attention to. In that, as you just said, Tim, a lot of our clients are coming to us to look for mechanics, electricians, electrical mechanical type guys to work on the equipment and so forth. That model today is predominantly reactive. And so they want an individual that can be there, and when that machine breaks, that somebody's going to fix it.
Yep.
The future, and it happens to some degree now. Companies, most companies have, a preventive maintenance program. They're doing things to try to get ahead of it. But if they're honest with themselves, as you said, I spent 35 years in this space, and as much preventive maintenance and things that we did and tried to do, we still dealt with breakdowns on a daily basis, which was a reactive model. So in this fourth industrial revolution, because of the ability to utilize the data and the sensors and how to utilize it, the real goal and the real savings is going to come from having what they refer to as predictive maintenance.
Yeah.
And so that data reading, we always said, if you're doing something right, if you don't know why something is working, you'll never understand when it's not working. Well, predictive maintenance is kind of along that line. You're reading enormous amount of data every day, that how that line is operating, or that production line, you're reading it. So with any kind of variation or vibration or noise or whatever, you have a predictive ability to know that we're about to have a breakdown, or if we don't do something. And so that has huge implications in the efficiency of a facility.
Yeah, for sure. And understanding what the implications are. So you talk about data. A problem that people are beginning to wrestle with, and I think how this is really going to affect organizations to move them forward, is it's often called big data. Mm-hmm. Big data just means you are overwhelmed with the amount of information. So just having information and putting everything, connected with sensors and interconnected data repositories, the ability to be able to pull the correct information to actually influence your business and your product and your manufacturing line. That is where we are now at the point where you can actually pull the right data, use it to predict and reduce cost and increase efficiencies. And again, there's new technology that you have to put in place to be able to do this, and the folks that you have on your floor in your organization today, either they need to learn and become familiar with and trained in this, or you need to start thinking 3 to 5 years down the road, or even less, the type of skill that you're going to need to be able to not only manage that, set that up, tweak that, but repair that is going to become huge here as we move into 2021 and beyond. The cost is staggering when you look at the cost of lines being down and the opportunity to reduce cost and make your business more profitable, more efficient. One quote from this study that we looked at said that 98% of organizations report that a single hour of downtime costs them over $100,000. And I would argue that's probably on the low side for some companies.
It can be, yeah, depending on the, how integrated the production line is. That's probably for a company that probably has 7 different production lines. So when one goes down, there's still 6 running. If you've got a situation where you've got a very integrated system where basically everything goes, we work with a client right now. We provide them field service technicians, and their data shows when they're an OEM, and so when their line goes down, which is very integrated, they project their numbers basically show that it's $21,000 a minute for that line to be down. So those things. I want to back up just a second and talk about, maybe in a little more context, what this looks like. And as Tim and I are trying to do while we kind of lay this out, we continue to want to, one, understand where this is going. As company leaders, we need to understand where this is going and why it's important that we get there, because of the efficiency of cost. If you don't do it and your competition's doing it, you're not going to be competitive. You're not going to be able to keep up with where it's going. If you were still using steam engine today and somebody else is using digital technology, you're probably not in business. And so, but I just want to back up a minute. Spending so much time as I did in the manufacturing industry, for me, I kind of visualize this new fourth industrial revolution in the factory floor. What does this look like? What does this technology allow us to do? And it's really, and we'll get into it in a minute, it's more than just, even though the space that we primarily focus in is in the maintenance side, but it's really bigger than that, because you're going to have this ability to gather this data. All of this is being done with high technology, with systems, and you're going to have a staff and a maintenance staff primarily, and an IT staff that has the ability, to keep it all going. And so it's similar. And we've talked about it in podcasts before. In the current environment that we're in now and have been in the last several years, companies have continued to advance their technology out of necessity. In the manufacturing plants, for example, that necessity is that they're having a really hard time finding the front end production workers. So the natural tendency is to further automate so that you can run more, not need as many.
Right.
And we've talked to some very high level big company CEOs who have said the flaw in that was we spent millions of dollars in putting in this automated equipment and then found that we had not prepared ourselves to have our maintenance teams that could work on that equipment. We're going to have the exact same thing happen here. Before you go investing, I think I just read an article that said in the next 3 years companies would increase the components, the cloud technology and so forth, into their manufacturing facilities by something around 34% of companies said they would double the amount of utilization of this. Well, if you're not growing your talent at the same time and have a plan as to how you're going to solve that, you're basically investing in something that is at risk of not being able to operate. If you think about it in our simple way of thinking, or my simple way of thinking, is we become so dependent on technology. When my internet doesn't work in the morning, I just, I go find Tim. I stare at things.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah, so I was just thinking, just think about it in context of the generation we're from. So we go buy this new advanced television, that's connected to Wi-Fi or the internet. And, and we have to call our kids or maybe our grandkids to come over because I can't make it do what it's supposed to do. So we can put all the stuff in our house that we want, but if we don't know how to make it work and fix it when it goes south, for you and I, that's an inconvenience. But for a company that's interconnecting everything and you don't have the ability to maintain that or tweak it and make it work to the best efficiency of your organization, it's going to cost you, so it's not just, oh yeah, we want to get this technology. We got to think about the implications of it as well. So that's a great point, Brett. So
you got to be, and the need to do it and the motivation to do it, and almost what's eventually probably going to be the price to play. If you're going to stay in this field and be efficient because of what it's doing, even beyond just predictive maintenance, but everything from connecting the front end to the back end and all these types of things. I read or saw a recent quote that said that basically this technology that we're talking about, that it will reduce cost in a facility by 10 to 20%. That's big.
Yeah, and I would love to be able to see, did they consider, I think that's probably based on if everything is working correctly.
Oh, well, absolutely, yeah.
So, and that's the thing, and we're not trying to say the sky is falling. We're looking right now, what sort of skills, in the advanced skill trade area that we focus on, what sort of skills are you going to need tomorrow to make all this work? So step one is, it's coming and it's happening. Undeniable. Step two is, how do we get it into our organization? Step three is, how do we make sure that we can make it work efficiently? And we're kind of out there in the step three area right now. We're thinking about that, and that's really our intent here. Many of you know this is happening right now, but it's the idea that we're trying to maybe have you think a little bit more strategically. So, we've researched and looked into this, Brett, and we had this kind of article that is really a big ebook that we looked at that synthesized a lot of this information. And so we kind of wanted to pull some snippets from that and talk about, what are the implications of what does that look like in real terms. So this report was developed by Microsoft. So obviously they have, a vested interest in making all this technology work. But it's some really good points in it. I encourage you to look at it. It's called The Future of Manufacturing Report. You can get it. It's worth a read. And so they talk about these major shifts in there that are going to be either happening or that are already ongoing. And we'll just hit on a couple of them. We've already talked about a couple of these, but the first one is this idea that you got to go from reactionary, that you really went into detail about, to predictive. You've got to be able to get out ahead of those, not just, and even preventative maintenance right now is just, I come from a military background, the Navy, we did preventative maintenance on everything, schedule, whether it needed it or not.
Yep.
You just did it.
Yep.
And so the predictive maintenance is, let's focus on where the fault is going to occur, not necessarily what the manual says we need to do. So that's definitely one of the shifts, reactionary to predictive models.
Well, and just to kind of, before I jump into the other one, just to kind of ride on that a little bit, you're exactly right, Tim. What companies that have extensive PM, think about airplanes. It's important that airplanes stay in the air, especially if I'm flying on it.
I'm for that.
And so what those companies do, and they're probably as advanced as anybody because they have to be, it's required in their business model, but they do what they call soft changes. So they predict, based off of information that, okay, after this many hours of usage, we're gonna replace that part, and they're very conservative in how they do that.
Right.
But in a predictive model, you're actually going to be able to better predict. Some things may get done earlier, and some things may actually go on because you're doing it based off of what the data is telling you as to how it's performing.
In actual, factual, historical.
Yep, real time.
Yeah, in real time. So that's the.
Yep.
And it's going to require maybe less staff, but more skilled staff. And we've had a lot of comments from folks out there in the skilled trades, and they're frustrated that they're seeing there's an increase in demand for skill and training, but and I'll just touch on a topic that they bring up to us often, the wages in their mind are lagging. Mm-hmm. So I think you need to look at, if you want to get the type of skilled, folks that you're going to need to be able to monitor and manage and work on this equipment, you need to be thinking about, there may be fewer of them, but you got to get the good ones. You may be having to look at increasing what that expense looks like. Traditional wage models may not hold in this future world we're heading into.
Right. Definitely. One of the cost efficiencies that I think companies will gain on is in a predictive model versus a reactive model, it takes a higher level of staff, a higher level of skilled trade, but less of them. I'm going to talk about it here in a minute, but in the current model, I don't know how many times, I'm talking with a maintenance manager and he's being called to the floor. They are reacting. The line is down. Get all the troops and head down here, type of thing. That requires a lot of staff because you've got other stuff going on. You got multiple things down. It's almost a bit chaotic. In its infancy. But broader than just the maintenance side, which is the piece near and dear to our heart, but really the skilled talent is going to touch all of this because all these systems are going to be connected. So it's not just going to make predictive maintenance. It's also the ability to gather this data and have this information. There'll be less siloing of information in general, which means everything from scheduling efficiency to staffing efficiency. Plants, as we've talked about, I spent a lot of time in that world. You staffed your plant to kind of what you thought you were going to be making that day, and sometimes you were overstaffed, sometimes you were understaffed. You were rarely staffed just right. And so with the ability to really narrow the information and really be making, we know what we're going to be making, we're making it because we know it's the right thing to be making. You can right size your staffing and your scheduling efficiency much better. And that in itself is worth a lot of money to companies.
Yeah, I mean, a term many of you are familiar with. It was taught, as long ago as maybe the 80s or 90s. Just in time manufacturing. And the idea there, the principle is a good one, but we haven't had, back to your point, we haven't had the technology to really allow end-to-end, just in time, in real time demand and supply and manufacturing, and that's what we're talking about here. So it covers a number of these areas that we have to shift. We talked on a couple of them, but also this idea from production lines to this production ecosystem, where everything is interconnected, from customers to your supply chain. It is not just a single production line. It is a production system that is highly flexible, interoperable, and connected. Yep. And I think that's the state where we're heading. And again, putting it in place is one thing, keeping it up and running and how to make it efficient and tweaking it, tuning it, that's really what we're talking about from the skilled trades perspective.
For most companies in the current world, a production line is made and designed to make a product in mass production, and I think the future will have a much more customization, flexibility, the ability to adjust to make model product. In this season we just went through with, or still going through with COVID, believe me, there's a lot of manufacturing plants who wished they could, a great example in some of the facilities that we're in food manufacturing, this line made a food service product. Well, what happened? The restaurants all got closed,
right,
for the most part, for at least a period, or it was all carried. So the food service restaurant demand went way down. What went way up? Retail. Everybody, was going to the grocery store and having to cook. And so the literally you had facilities that had lines. They couldn't keep up with orders, but you had lines that weren't running because they weren't flexible. They couldn't make another. They couldn't adjust.
Classic case for an opportunity cost. You lost out on that opportunity because the cost associated with that you weren't prepared or able to take advantage of.
Yep, that's exactly right. So the other place, where you're going to have this technology have a big impact, and is what we refer to as, a linear supply chain to a circular supply chain. So literally you're going to be able to connect all the way from the raw material to literally the customer. So today, and I'm fully aware, I'm being general in some of these comments, so some companies are already more sophisticated in their planning and scheduling than others. But I know of a lot of companies still to this day, they look, when they're building inventory, and most companies at some point are building inventory. You're rarely always making product today to ship tomorrow. And so in that process of building inventory, in the current, most companies still are looking at their what we sell last month, what's been our trend for the last 6 months, and basis that, you make a guess and you build inventory, and you have raw material that matches to that, and so forth and so on. In this future state, you'll know in real time what's getting sold off the shelf, what is the consumer buying, and so the inventory management and the management of waste and the amount of storage that you need all gets much more efficient. You're not dealing with, we made 1,000 cases of a product, now we realize we don't need, it's going to go out of date, kind of a thing.
Yeah. So to tie that up, the last one of the shifts it talks about in this article, and I think it's, I'll give an example, but they say the shift is going to be from manufacturing products to manufacturing services. And if you think about another technology, so software. Think about software. Oftentimes now they call it software as a service. The same kind of model exists. So 10 years ago, maybe longer, when you or I wanted to buy a new piece of software, let's say you wanted to buy, Microsoft Office. You wanted Word and Excel. What did you do? Well, you went to the Home Depot, or you went to, not Home Depot, but
Best Buy.
Best Buy, yeah.
Penny's favorite store.
Yeah, one of those places they sell technology. What did you buy? You go and you bought a box that had the software in there, the discs, and you came home and you installed it. You got it all, and that's what, and you bought a product. Today, I don't think you can do that at all. I think if you want software, you go on the cloud to Microsoft, a la carte, you pick what you want, and you order it as a service, and you download, everything's on the cloud, and you customize that for what you need, for how long you need it. The same thing in manufacturing is going to happen, where now customers are becoming very, very demanding, and they're getting used to, through Amazon and Uber and all these other things, to getting what they want when they want it. So they're going to require you, as somebody providing their product, I'm looking for this capability. This is what I need. So in the past, where you maybe produced, hey, here's a catalog, here's our spring catalog, here's what we're offering. And you go and pick it, and the customers would order it, and you would ship it. That's not going to happen in the future. The future is going to be immediately, this is what I need. As a matter of fact, before they even order it, because they're looking at it online, they're thinking about it, you already know that demand is increasing. You're going to be producing it, and when the demand comes, you're already ahead of producing it. That's switching from a product mentality to a service mentality, and that's what part of this is going to be. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the shifts that we think are going to be coming. A little bit more on this idea of predictive maintenance versus these, preventative maintenance, and just to wrap up, a couple other thoughts maybe you had on that, Brett.
Yeah. Let's just spend another minute on that, if we can, just kind of maybe unpack a little bit further, and so, I would say, at the very forefront, it really comes down. If you're getting anything out of this podcast, would be one word: skilled talent. And this move, that whether you like it, whether you embrace it, whatever the case may be, it's coming. I mean, if you go back and think about the last, industrial revolution, the third, with digital technology of computers and internet. I mean, you think about that. I'm sure there were people when that started, like, I'm not doing that. Well, yes, you are.
or you're not in business today.
Yeah. And so these ideas that we're talking about here, they're going to develop, and they should. They're great utilizations of the technology and using it in a very positive way to grow your business. And so, but we try to avoid being too much of a commercial. We just want to talk about these things, think about it. But we at Skillwork, we're thinking about this. We're not just doing this on a podcast. We're looking at this trend, and we're looking at where it's going, and we're saying, okay, how are we going to provide our clients the level of skilled talent that they're going to need? We're already in conversations with different schools and different certification programs to say, this is what the industry is going to need. How are you going to partner with us? Because the truth is, and we say it all the time, you've got a business to run. Just implementing all this and getting it done is going to be one piece. You're going to need a partner, and we're going to try to be that partner and do it right and be ready for the talent that's going to be required as this unfolds. And I think it's going to be in a variety of things. It's going to be there's going to be a lot more predictive, preemptive troubleshooting, the ability to really connect your floor and figure out where your bottlenecks are. A great example of that would be, you figure out, I've got a piece of equipment, that through this data we're understanding there's this piece of equipment is consistently causing us some issues, whether it's in the setup of it, whatever it is, but we found it's 22% of our slowdown or downtime is being created by this. In this future state today, you'd probably bring in that OEM, they'd bring in a service tech, which in the current COVID climate is even a more difficult situation. Yep. But the technology that we're talking about now, allows through VR and AR technology, media. Tim and I were talking yesterday, and we always seem to find a way to point out that we're older and getting older, because we all are. And so, that we both remember when the beginning of internet, when it was a dial-up, and everybody that knows what I'm talking about remembers that modem noise, and the idea that you would watch a video or send, but you could do it, but it was slow and choppy at best. And so in that time, we talked about it a minute ago, the technology wasn't there to support in real time for real business application these things like we're talking about, VR and AR technology and these kinds of things. But today, it's all instantaneous. It's all, literally, I can log in. If I'm an OEM field service tech, before I get on the airplane and go there, which might take me a couple days, which we already talked about what that's costing that facility, whether it's a preemptive, hey, we need to get on top of this issue that's hurting us, or hey, we're down, and type of thing. The ability to be able to connect from the outside in and see it in real time and coach in real time and be able to provide them some guidance. These are the types of things that this technology is really going to I said it a minute ago, and anybody that has spent any time in the last 25 years in the manufacturing space, especially on the maintenance side, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Every maintenance guy in a plant has a radio, and I always say that radio basically is a reactive tool, and it usually leads to some level of chaos. To this day, we talk to guys all the time that the radio's gone off. Everybody, I said it a minute ago, everybody's running to the floor. That's not exactly the most efficient use, and they're gone because the line's down.
Yeah,
and that's all very reactive. It all costs a lot of money. It's very inefficient. And this technology has the potential to take us to a level that plants will run much smoother, much more efficient, less cost. But it's all going to come down to, do we have the skills, the skilled talent to really pull this off?
Yeah, and I was just thinking, an example I had just this past week. So I'm working remotely. I've got a company laptop connected back here to our facility, having problems with something. So I connected to our IT company. We have an outsourced IT. We don't have any IT folks here. It's all virtual. So contacted them. Again, that was me being proactive. So I would have liked to have been in future where they would have actually sensed the issue. But they got on virtually, and this isn't new. We see this all the time. They got on virtually, reached through, took over my laptop. I watched them moving everything around. They were talking to me, moving things around in real time, fixing it. And I was, two stages away from where they were. Not only were they virtually removed, but I was virtually removed, and everything was getting fixed in real time. In years past, it would be laptops broke.
Yep.
I'm out, I'm done. So, that's a very small picture of what that looks like. So the summary of all of this is this fourth industrial revolution. It's real, it's ongoing, it's already started. Interconnected ecosystems in your manufacturing facility. And also, we didn't touch on a lot, but in construction, the same thing applies. I've talked to many people in this industry, and they're like, yeah, if our subs, if our vendors, if our suppliers aren't connected with our system end to end, from bidding to supply to development to blueprint, if they're not connected, they're not going to be working with us in the future. So the same thing applies there. Highly automated, and the ability to learn and adapt to your environment, your customers, and your business. So as you said, Brett, with every one of these revolutions, there are those that get in front of it and are winners. They adapt, and they understand there's going to be a need for different skill and understanding to fully leverage that technology to make it all work. And the winners are starting to evolve now, and we're seeing that. Our clients, they're asking the right questions. We're getting out ahead of it. We want to be there for you to be able to help you through this. We're learning as well how this all looks in the future. But people, it's going to come, it always comes down to people, the right people. No matter how much technology we have, you got to have the right people to make it work. So that's really kind of the summary of what we want to talk about today. We hope that this was valuable to you. If you want to learn more, you would like to reach out to us, talk to us about this, about your needs, about where we think things are going, we'd love to chat with you. The contact information is there on the podcast. You can reach out to us at skillwork.com. I'm Tim. This is Brett from Skillwork. Until next time, have a great day.